think of other writers that do this. I'm sure there are. Just nothing's coming to mind. I'm sure there's lots. But I really enjoy not having like a, like a style per se that like, he does this. Like I really love that I can do the adult stuff and then go away from it and then discover this kid's world of like jokes and like, even like Dorkler kind of explores fantasy cliche, it just takes all those orcs and dragons and things and kind of pokes fun at them. While with adult stuff, you try to be really original. So they just, everything about them, even in their conception and the way I structure them, is just totally different. If I can keep writing them both, I'd love to. It's a lot of fun.
And I like that that you're using Michael for the adult books and Mike for the middle grade. Keep it straightforward.
Yeah, it's Penguin was kind of unsure about that, and I was like, why not? I was like, I think people can connect that it's the same person. And it's funny, it actually does, like Amazon created a different page for me for Mike Johnston versus, I guess if there's any small difference, they think they just started up as a new writer. So they're listed as different authors on like, most of the Amazon and Barnes and Noble, which is fine. 'Cause I don't think there's a ton of crossover between the readers anyway. So I don't really mind it. But yeah, it was like some people use pseudonyms. It's like pseudonym light. You know what I mean? It's like it's the same name almost, but it's like, I don't know, Michael Johnson sounded a bit formal for like a kid's diary book. I mean, it's a really goofy book. I was like, I think I want Mike on it, Like
it's infinitely more approachable, I think. I agree.
Like a kid's author, I don't know.
No, esteemed audience knows that I write middle grade books under the name Rob Kent, and then I'll write adult horror under the name Robert Kent. And I like to alternate back and forth with you. So
all right, we're on the same team. All right, I got it. So it's like people are doing it.
Speaking by the way, you know what? That's such good information. I feel that we should just go ahead and call that the start of the podcast, because I wouldn't want anybody to have missed that. So Michael Johnston, welcome to the show. Appreciate you making the time to be here, and we'll chat for, I don't know, maybe around an hour or so. Is that pretty comfortable?
It sounds good to me. I'm like all of us in 2020/21. I'm just home, so what else to do?
This was a fortuitous time to be doing a video podcast. I'd started shortly before the world fell apart. It's like, all right, well, it's just slightly ahead of the curve. So in fact, I saw that for your book, Confessions of a Dork Lord, which we'll be talking about hopefully at length. I saw that you managed to sneak in a book tour right there in February of 2020 and ended just before March. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it started in late January, but yeah, you've got the time period just about right. Yeah, I was traveling during the early Corona and not wearing a mask on the plane. Nobody in America was wearing a mask in January, so it seems insane to me now that I wasn't. But washing my hands furiously and staying away from people. Yeah, I did like a week of tours in schools. It was around thousands of kids. It's like a miracle I didn't get the coronavirus out of that. And then we were in Texas for a book festival. God, and that was like February or March, and that was really getting close to it. There was hand sanitizer everywhere, and I could feel the world closing. And then that was the end of it. I haven't obviously done anything since. But yeah, no, I'd say I'll always remember this book as the one that launched right before the world went on hold. And the second one is coming out in 2022 spring. They take forever to come out because they're illustrated, and that is taken a long time, but it's worth it because I love the illustrations. So that one will come out on the other side of the pandemic. It'll be spring right after we're all back to normal. So it'll be interesting that these two books kind of bookend the whole pandemic. They sort of skipped over it.
Did you videotape any of your visits from the first go round?
Interesting. I don't think I have any video. I have stills.
I would love to see just video of your tour for the first book versus the second book. What's different? What's the same?
There'd probably be a lot of kids in masks on that side. As far as I know, it sounds like these masks are going to be around for a really long time for all of our safety, even after we're vaccinated. So I'm guessing that'll be the big thing. Yeah, that'll be. I'm gonna have to look and see if I do have some video. It would be interesting to see the world before and after. I'm guessing a lot of kids are going to be spaced out. There won't be a lot of gymnasiums full of 500 children for a long time.
No, I mean you could probably do a lawn show and get maybe that many out.
I'm one of those people. I love school visits. I think I can't think of anything more fun. Well, occasionally it isn't, but I love talking to like a big group of kids. It's super, especially because this book is so goofy and like some of the jokes are just really over the top, and it's fun to talk about some of this stuff in school because a lot of it's kind of inappropriate too, and kids love that. So
as far as certain flatulence humor, or
yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of jokes about medieval toilets. I was in where was I? I was in Prague many years ago, and I was looking up at the castle, and there's this little building hanging off the side of the castle. I was a lot younger, and there's all these stains on the wall. And I asked the tour guide, "What is that?" She's like, "Yeah, that's how the toilets work. It's just a bench that hangs off the side of the tower, and then everything just falls out of the tower, just onto anybody below. It wasn't like there was like an area that to contain it or anything." That was one of the moments that was one of the first ideas for this book. Just how absurd some things in history are, and how inherently comic they are. I was like, oh my god, that's a scene for a middle grade comedy. And the kids love to talk about that. When I do a book tour, I do a whole talk about medieval history and like gross and weird stuff from it. So the kids dig it.
You say that, and I'm remembering. I think M.T. Anderson. He might have mentioned Prague because there was the assassination of Penguin Surge. I'm getting the title wrong. I'm trying to find it as we're talking so that when I again am out and about in person, and I hopefully run into M.T. Anderson, I can say, no, I definitely remember the name of your book when it mattered. But it's a very long title. I could be forgiven. It's The Assassination of Brangwyn Spurge by M.T. Anderson. And it's a fantasy book about goblins, very medieval, and they've got toilets up above the city streets. So in the middle of an opera, they're going and they're sitting on a hole. And so if you're walking on the city street below, you just gotta keep an eye out and duck.
You would think they would do something about that. Like, no. So different sensibility, which I find fascinating. I don't think we'd stand for that these days.
How horrified might a medieval villager be if we could, bring them forward in time and join us on the podcast? And they say, I lived a full, incredible, and rich life. I loved, I created art, and that's what you remember about me, how I went to the bathroom. Well.
I do think that's really interesting. Like, you never know what history is going to find interesting or not. Yeah, I'm sure there's something that we're doing right now that they will laugh at and ridicule and is absurd that we think is perfectly normal, and we don't even know what that might be. But I'm sure it's out there, right? I'm sure that maybe it's this. Maybe Zoom will be mocked somehow. They'll have holograms or something, and they'll think we're weird.
Well, sure, yeah. When everybody's on the Neuralink and interfacing directly, like. What's that joke in Back to the Future 2? The kid comes up to the video game, young Elijah Wood, and oh my God, you have to use your hands. I'm not interested in that video game.
Yeah. So it'll get there.
Talking on screens in our time, if we want to say something to the collective, we just say it, and everyone hears it at once, and it's fun.